Hey y'all, it's Kara. Welcome to the start of a new series on my channel where I take a specific book genre and then list like 50 favorite books all from that genre, or like 50 book recommendations. I'm gonna have different subsections of everything. It's gonna be a really fun time. We're starting with thrillers today. I really couldn't be more excited. I think it's gonna be really fun to have all of these favorite books all in one place, all in one video, just so that anyone who's casually watching will know, hey, these are some books that this girl likes and recommends. I don't know. It seemed like a good idea when I was typing up all these notes just a minute ago. I don't have my journal today, I just have my computer. Okay, so here are the different seven sections that we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna start out with hyped author faves. So I'm gonna talk about like hyped thriller authors and my one favorite book from each of those authors. See, I'm kind of jazzing it up a little bit. It's not gonna be any books you haven't heard of yet, but maybe you don't know which one is my favorite from each author. Then we're gonna go into underrated faves, the way I determined if a book was like underrated. I just went on Goodreads, and if it had 20,000 ratings or less, it's on there. There's one that's got like 22K, but I never hear anyone talk about it, so it is also on there. We're gonna go into like fast-paced thriller recommendations, slow burns, psychological thriller book recs, mystery thrillers, and then the last category is just called just really good. And those are the books that I really wanted to talk about, but they didn't really fit into the other categories that I created, so that last one's just kind of a catch-all. And then at the very end of the video, guys, I'm going to just list off my top 5 favorite thrillers, like of all time. Oh my gosh, I just won't shut up. I want to go ahead and get started with this video. Let us start with the hyped author favorites. So again, I'm going to list a really popular thriller author and then my one favorite book from them. Let us start with Paula Hawkins. Paula's been fresh on the brain recently because I just read her newest release. I don't even know if it's out yet. I got it as an ALC from Libro FM. It was a slow fire burning. That is not my favorite Paula Hawkins though. My favorite Paula Hawkins is so basic. It is The Girl on the Train. I really love that book. It's got an unreliable narrator, it's got a murder, it has multiple perspectives, just a lot going on in a really tight package. I think that it was a lot of fun to read. I listened to it as an audiobook on a trip one time. I don't know how that impacted my reading experience, but I really thought it was great. That one is my favorite Paula. Let us also talk about Gillian Flynn. My favorite Flynn is Sharp Objects. I know I talk about this book all the time, and this is a really good time to point out, if you're following me on Goodreads, thank you. I love being friends with you guys on Goodreads and talking about books over there too. But sometimes you'll notice that I'll give a book 3 stars and then say it's one of my favorite books. I don't know why I do that. I can't explain it. Who I was as a rater and reviewer yesterday just is not the same as who I am today. Especially if I read books years ago. I used to rate things super objectively, like back when I was in college and I was like, you know, doing my little English major nonsense. I really thought that I needed to rate books based on, is this the best book of all time? No? Okay, it's like 3 stars then. And I've just evolved since then, and I think about this book all the time. It's about a reporter returning to her hometown to investigate a string of murders, and while she's there, she has to deal with old family drama. That's my favorite Gillian Flynn book. Moving on to Ruth Ware. I have like a rocky past with Ruth Ware. I am all caught up on her entire backlist, and it's safe to say The Turn of the Key is my favorite Ruth Ware book by far. It's about a woman who is hired to be a nanny at a smart house, and then while she's there, she doesn't know how much of weird things going on are like the smart house acting up, or is someone playing a trick on her, or is there a ghost or ghosts in this house? What is going on here? I really loved the atmosphere of this one. It's really my favorite Ruth book. I feel like this is a rare case where she just didn't really overwrite anything. It was just like the perfect length for me. I didn't love the ending. I don't think this is a 5-star book, but it is my favorite one from her. Speaking of British thriller writers, Lisa Jewell, my favorite Lisa Jewell book. This one might be unpopular. It's The Family Upstairs. I thought it was so cool. The reason I like that one so much is probably like the unforeseen house inheritance trope. Oh man, it was so good. And there was also like a cult plot going on. yeah, but check that one out. I really think that like if you've tried Lisa Jewell before and you haven't really vibed with her writing, you might like The Family Upstairs. Moving on to Riley Sager, this one changes a lot too, because as much as I love The Last Time I Lied, I love Lock Every Door just a little bit more. This is definitely my #1 Riley Sager. Again, that could change tomorrow. I love this book so much because it felt really different to me at the time of reading it. I know a lot of people think that the twists and the turns are kind of predictable, but honestly, I didn't see any of this coming. We have a down on her luck girl in a too good to be true situation where she is apartment sitting at this really swanky apartment complex, like this really, really nice building, but then her friend slash co-worker disappears and things just really take off from there. My favorite Shari LaPena book is An Unwanted Guest. This is an isolated setting thriller, which is part of the reason why I like it so much, but I also like it because it's just like a locked door mystery. We've got a group of people and we've got some murders going on and we're trying to figure out who is the culprit. I really like LaPena's ideas, and I think the reason she doesn't usually work for me as a writer is because really just like in all of her plots, we're in a neighborhood and we're like dealing with couple drama, family drama. And this one was just so fun because it was like a group of strangers out in a snowed in cottage, like not cottage, but like inn, hotel kind of thing. And it just felt different to me. So yeah, this is my favorite one by her. Megan Miranda is another really popular thriller author. My favorite book by her is The Girl from Widow Hills. I read this one last year and it really surprised me. It's about this woman who has a sleepwalking problem, and then one night she wakes herself up outside falling over a dead body, and she has blood all over her. I think that she might even have a weapon in her hand, and she doesn't know if she has murdered this person or not, like if she's been set up. That was a really fun one. Moving on to Lane Moriarty, Big Little Lies. It's another basic pick because I feel like obviously this is her like biggest hit, but this was just a really good book and I had been put off on it for so long because it's so popular and it's so well loved. And of course, I mean, I've never seen the TV show, but the TV show is very popular as well. And I just really thought like there's no way that this could live up to any expectations I put on it, but I was so wrong. It is longer than I thought it was going to be, but I flew through this pretty quickly and I really would recommend it if you have been wanting to read it, especially if you've not seen the show and don't know what any of the twists are going to be. I had such a good time reading this. It is like a 5-star all-time favorite for me. Check it out. Then lastly, for the hyped thriller authors, we're gonna talk a little bit about Alex North because I don't know, he only has 2 books and I've read both of them, but like I feel like people really love one or the other. They have a clear favorite. For me, that is The Whisper Man. I did like it a lot more than The Shadows, and I never talk about this book again because it just didn't really stand out to me at the time, but that one is my favorite from that really popular author. That is the end of category 1. Let's now move on to like the completely opposite category. We're gonna talk about underrated thriller favorites now. Just as a reminder, I chose these books because they have like 20,000 ratings or less on Goodreads, which I would consider to be kind of underrated. The first rec here is going to be Neverworld Wake by Marisha Pessl. This is the only young adult recommendation on the list, if that tells you anything. We have a group of teenagers stuck in a time loop trying to solve the death of one of their friends. It is one of my very favorite young adult thrillers of all time. It kind of has like that sci-fi feel to it too, so I couldn't leave it off of this list. And then I know I've been talking about them constantly this year, but Penance and Confessions by Kanae Minato, these are just golden to me, you guys. It's interesting because both of these books, they're not related. Like other than having the same author, it's not part of a series, they're not companion novels, anything like that, but both are following mothers' quests for revenge. Check these out, please. I also am gonna knock out another one I talk about all the time. It's The Night the Lights Went Out by Karen White. My mom and I love this book so much. It's about a recent divorcee who has to move in like on this farm, and she has this elderly landlady who is really tough. They strike up a sweet friendship, but then also this divorced woman, her name is Mary Lee. She strikes up another friendship with a rich mom, and that woman just gets her into all kinds of trouble. So it's a mix between being like fun and juicy, but also being really compelling. There are some really cool historical chapters going on here. I almost had this one in the slow burn category, but it is a favorite for me. Next, I want to mention The Butcher by Jennifer Hillier. I read this for a reading vlog where I read Haley Hughes' favorite books. So this book is so underrated, like less than 5K ratings on Goodreads. Like, I don't even know why, because this was so surprising, and it was actually really scary, really gory, just like some real nasty scenes going on in this book. I mean, it's called The Butcher for a reason, okay? Basically, a serial killer named The Butcher had been terrorizing this area, but then police thought that they had taken him down in the past, and now in the present day, it seems like The Butcher is back. Pretty good. It's pretty good. This next one is interesting because I don't know if it's underrated because it's actually going to eventually continue to be underrated, or if it's just because it's a new release. But this barely has any ratings. Bathhouse by PJ Vernon. I read this for a vlog as well where Lenny chose my reading for a weekend. I just found it to be really exciting, really engaging. It is an LGBTQ+ thriller, which I really have not read that many of. And with that being said, it also is own voices, and I just really thought it was thrilling, and I recommend this book if it sounds interesting to you. It is about a gay couple and the secrets that they are keeping from one another, and how those secrets can end up being really dangerous and possibly tear them apart. And I think it would be the perfect like Netflix original movie, just like popping popcorn, eating snacks, laying on the couch watching this, but it's a book. That review just went off the rails, but you know what I mean. I recommend it. Lastly, for those underrated favorites, I'm gonna mention The Retreat. Now, this is the one I was talking about that has about like 22,000 ratings, but I have never heard of this book until recently. I was on Scribd and saw it as an option, and I listened to it as an audiobook while I was driving to the beach, actually. And on paper, it just was everything I was looking for in a thriller. We had an isolated setting, we had a book about writers. It's about this writer's retreat. That's why it's called The Retreat. And we're really following this horror author who is there, and while he is there, he becomes interested in the woman running the retreat. They find out that she had really this horrible tragedy that happened to her a few years back, where her husband drowned looking for their daughter, and then the daughter was still missing, and she was presumed dead. But the book is kind of about him becoming obsessed with either trying to prove that the daughter is actually dead or trying to find the daughter, whichever comes first in his own like amateur investigation. And that is gonna round out the underrated section of the video. Now we're gonna move on to the slow burn thriller recommendations. This is a subgenre, or like, it's not even a subgenre. This is like a characteristic of a thriller that I used to almost exclusively look for. I really love to just get immersed in the pages, have that building tension in my mystery. These days, I'm looking for more fast-paced reads, but these were some favorites back when I was just like, let me take 2 weeks to get bogged down in a bunch of details and then have my mind blown at the end. So the first two recommendations are by Dennis Lehane. This is the same author as Shutter Island. I wouldn't categorize Shutter Island as a slow burn in my heart, but I do know that a lot of people do. Like, a lot of people find that book very slow to get through. So I think maybe it's just a Dennis Lehane thing, because definitely both of these are, but I think the payoffs are very rewarding. Mystic River, man, this book is wild. If you like the book It by Stephen King, I think you would like Mystic River. This is more of like a police detective drama, but it's following a group of men who were childhood friends, and now in the present day, they're still caught up in something that happened to one of them as children, and then also in the present day, one of their daughters has been murdered. So it's just like a complicated exploration of those friendships, like both as children growing up and then as adults, and we're looking at how did things get to where they are today, but we're also trying to solve this mystery of who murdered one of these one of the man's daughters. Oh my gosh. We're trying to also solve the murder of Katie, the daughter. Also, Since We Fell by Dennis Lehane. This is the slowest slow burn I've ever read, and it is hard for me to recommend it. That's why I don't talk about it like ever, and it is one of my favorite books, but it's just like, it's about 500 pages of, okay, why are we reading this? I'm sorry, I take that back. it's about 400 pages of okay and then like 10 pages of oh my gosh, you know? This one is about a journalist who suffers from a very public mental breakdown, and then after that becomes a little bit reclusive and her life falls apart. She becomes really obsessed with different conspiracy theories, paranoia, and as the reader, yeah, you're trying to figure out, is this woman making any sense? Like, does she have a reason to be this paranoid and to not leave the house and be this agoraphobic? And then like the last little quarter of the book, or 15% of the book, is really action-packed. It's a slow burn if I've ever read one, but there you have it, Since We Fell by Dennis Lehane. Next is the most recent slow burn that I have read and finished and really enjoyed. It's The Other Black Girl by Zakiya Dalila Harris. I don't know if this is widely accepted as a slow burn, but I found it difficult to get through at times because of the way that the story was told. We have the action setting of this girl working at a publishing company. She is a black woman. She's the only black woman who works there, and then another black woman is hired. She thinks that they are going to be really amicable peers, maybe even friends, and then as things continue, she realizes, okay, that is not the case. This girl and I really aren't getting along great like how she thought that they would. The first black girl who worked there, her name is Nella, and then Nella starts getting threatening notes telling her to leave the company. And I was really into all that, and we really did have that slow burn, slow build tension going on. But then we would have these other chapters pop in every now and then where you're following different women's perspective really throughout history. My point is just you don't know how things connect, and so as you're reading, it's adding to this level of confusion and unease of an already slow plot of like, how is all of this working together? But then by the end, I think that things came together in a way that was really surprising to me. So this is the most recent slow burn that I've read that I've really enjoyed. Next is The Good Daughter by Karen Slaughter. I actually should have put Karen Slaughter up in like that hyped author category because I still would have chosen The Good Daughter as my favorite book by her. I've not read a ton of Karen Slaughter. It's literally between this and Pretty Girls, but this one is my favorite, but it is a slow burn. It's a big chunky book. We have a lot of legal jargon going on here. Is it just me, or like my skin looks weird? This light is making me look translucent. Anyway, this book is following sisters. Actually, here's the best way to describe this book, is this little one sentence thing on the flap, little inside flap here. It says, 2 girls are forced into the woods at gunpoint. One runs for her life, one is left behind. So that's how the book starts out, and then in the present day, actually no, I'm not gonna tell you. That's how the book starts, and then their father is a lawyer, and one of the daughters like followed in his footsteps and is the good daughter, and then yeah, something really crazy and traumatic happens in the present day in the town where one of the sisters is still living. She witnesses everything, or she thinks she witnesses like something bad that happened, and she actually has to get her sister, who has kind of become an estranged figure in her life, to come and help with the situation, and it is so good. I love The Good Daughter. Oh my gosh, I Let You Go by Claire McIntosh, probably the best plot twist I've ever read. Oh, it blew my mind. It starts out with a young boy who is killed in a hit and run accident, and from there we're just following all of the results of that accident. I can't tell you anything else. I don't want to give anything away, even like subconsciously. Oh my gosh, I really love that book. It is a slow burn though. It's another police drama, a little bit tough to get through at times, but again, one of the best plot twists I've ever read in my life. It still blows my mind to think about it. It still gives me chills. Ooh, also 9 Perfect Strangers by Liane Moriarty. This one is right up there with Big Little Lies for me. I do like it, but it is a slow burn. There is a lot of okay and moments, kind of like one of those other books I was talking about. Okay, my son has decided now I'm gonna be really tan. You know what, I'm not mad about it though. This is following 9 strangers at a resort. And then are they in danger once they get there? Yeah, they're in danger. This is actually going to be a Hulu series soon. So if you've been interested to like read this before the series, I'm telling you, now is the time, but you might wanna get on it if you are planning to read it, because takes a little bit of time, a little bit of a slow burn. Lastly, for this category, I have The Circle by Dave Eggers. This is another one that's like deceivingly long. It's like 500 pages, and it is a tech, kind of like a sci-fi thriller. It is a slow burn, but I love a dystopian book. I love following like moral questions and ethical problems in books, especially when technology is involved. It's about this girl named May who goes to work for the Circle, which is a tech company that's going to try to like link everyone's accounts into like one online presence or profile. And really when I say online, it really is like linking it all to you, like your own person. That's really difficult to explain, but yeah, that is what this book is about, and I think that it is worth the read despite the low Goodreads ratings. All right, I gotta pick up the pace on these recommendations because this is just getting too long. Very fittingly there, the next category is going to be fast-paced thriller recommendations. First, we have When No One Is Watching by Alyssa Cole. This one felt really fast-paced to me, even though we are tackling some larger themes of like gentrification in Black neighborhoods and like some really good and nuanced paranoia. It's about a neighborhood where people are going missing, and this one woman is not convinced that the explanations that she's been given are correct. It's a really fun one. Next is The One by John Mars. Really, truly an all-time favorite for me. I had such a fun reading experience with this book. The chapters are so unbelievably short, and like that's not the only reason why it's a super fast-paced thriller, but we do have like 5 different perspectives we're following, and each chapter is like, I want to say 4 to 5 pages max, like at a maximum. So it's so easy to fly through. It is a tech thriller about this dating system gone wrong. It's like you can get swabbed and have a DNA genetic match for you who is your soulmate, and obviously things go horribly wrong in a bunch of different ways, and it's really fun to see how everything plays out. Another super fast-paced book is Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk. He's one of my favorite writers. This book is difficult to explain. Let me think for a second. It's about a fight club. It's about a group of men who are tired of being these like worker drones, and they want to take charge of their lives and like stick it to the man. And then it's just like there's a lot of commentary on like who are the villains here though. It's very interesting. Apart from this being just a short book in general and really easy to fly through, the chapters are also short, and I feel like the writing style really puts you into the mind of the narrator, and it just makes it so fast, so easy to read. Also, if you don't know what the twist is in this book, like talk about one of the craziest twists of all time. It is in Fight Club. I also have to mention The Test by Sylvan Neuvel. It's another one that is really just like a novella, almost like a short story. It's about 100 pages long, and it is about a man who's trying to take the British citizenship test. And I think it's really like an ethics test when he gets in there, and he's trying to get citizenship for himself, for his family, and once he gets in there, the test is not what he thought it was going to be. Again, it's so short, but it's so fast-paced, and it is a book that I truly think about almost every day. Just some of the moral and ethical questions that this man has to face and come to terms with, and the aftermath of all that. Ooh, it is good. I also have My Sister the Serial Killer by Owen Con-Brathwaite. This is one of the first books I read when I started my YouTube channel because I like gave into the hype, and I'm so glad that I did. I know that this book is not for everybody because it is so short. Not only is it only about 200 pages, but the words are very large on the page with very large margins. The chapters are incredibly short. I know a lot of complaints about this book are like, I wish we had more time with the characters and to like follow this sister dynamic, but for me, I didn't need anything else. It was so fast-paced, so refreshing. It's following these 2 sisters, and one of the sisters is a habitual man-eater, and her boyfriends keep mysteriously dying, and the other sister, Crede, has to come in and be like, all right girl, like I'll help you, but this is getting kind of weird to me. And then from there, yeah, we're following like the mystery of the deaths kind of, and then we're also following the relationship between the 2 sisters. Highly recommend this one. Oh my gosh, You by Caroline Kepnes. Please listen to this audiobook if you want to. I don't know, that's a weird like wreck. I really love the audiobook because you feel like Joe Goldberg, who is the main character, is like in your ear, and it makes it so creepy. This is an all-time favorite for me, and I read this book after I had seen the Netflix show. So if you've seen the show and you still want to read the book, that's how I did it, and it was still 5 stars. Thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm trying to think about how to explain this book, and I keep wanting to refer to Joe as like an anti-hero. Is he an anti-hero, or is he just a horrible human being and with like no redeeming qualities? I don't know. personally, Joe Goldberg is one of my favorite literary characters ever. Like, not because he's a good person, he's a horrible, horrible human being. But like, I can't stop reading about him. And in this world, in this series, Joe just becomes obsessed with people and then murders people in their lives. I always feel weird talking about You because a lot of people hate that book. Like, I see 5-star reviews, I see 1-star reviews. Yeah, you love it or you hate it. I loved it, and I want to make sure that I document that on this channel, that I am on the right side of history of loving You. I'm just kidding. If you hate You, I completely understand why. That book is kind of gross at times. All right. No Exit by Taylor Adams. A girl is trying to get home through the snow. She's driving, her windshield wiper breaks. She pulls over to this rest area, gets out, she's with a group of strangers, and then she finds a girl in a cage in a car in the parking lot, and she can't leave. So somebody who she is there with is a kidnapper, possibly like a really dangerous person. So yeah, I love No Exit. You've heard me talk about it a million times. That's my last pitch for a while for it. So please pick it up if you've not read it yet. I have no idea why I didn't hold it up while I was talking about it, but yes, No Exit, so good. Next is They Never Learn by Lane Fargo. It's about this woman who is a professor on a college campus, but she also is this vigilante murderer who is murdering men on the campus who have wronged women in some way. That's one of the timelines. And then the other perspective is from a student at the college, and she's just trying to navigate her first year with her roommate. Yeah. And then of course somehow the two perspectives merge in some way, things come together, and it is quite brilliant. Love They Never Learn. And then also I've got The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. Oh, shoot, another favorite. So it's actually kind of another one, like, is this super fast paced or did I just read it in a day and I think it's fast paced? I don't know. Who is to say? But it's about these people who meet at an airport, and this man is like, I really want to kill my wife, and the woman is like, let's just kill your wife then. And he doesn't know whether or not she's being serious. Like, are they actually going to follow through with these plans? And the book just takes these wild turns from there. I love the way that the author tells this book in different parts, and each part changes narrators, and I think that the way that it's done is so creative. And oh my gosh, this ending got me. Like, like, it's one of those, it's like last page, last sentence, flipped everything on its head. This was so good. Next, we're just gonna touch on the psychological thrillers. Night Film by Marisha Pessl. It's just a true gem. It's a journalist trying to get to the bottom of this really mysterious filmmaker named Cordova and some of the lore surrounding him and his film and his family. It's a long one. It's got mixed media though, which kind of can shorten things at times, but this is so psychological, so immersive, so much fun. Also, Shutter Island, not going to talk about it much, but it is a psychological thriller set on an island where there is a hospital for the criminally insane, and 2 US Marshals are called in because one of the patients has escaped. Similarly there, we have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I love this book. This plot twist got me. I did not see it coming. It's about this man who is a criminal psychologist or psychoanalyst or something, and he's working with this woman who murdered her husband. And it's about his small breakthroughs with her, his setbacks with her, but we're also learning more about his life outside of his job, and we're also learning about her life before she allegedly murdered her husband. This is another one that's kind of polarizing, but if you're wanting to read like an Alex Michaelides book and it's between this and The Maidens, this is my favorite by far. Also, I've got to quickly mention I'm Thinking of Ending Things by Ian Reid. That is the most psychological book that I've ever read. It's about these 2 people in a car. They are dating. They kind of are like newly dating, and they're going to meet the boy's parents for the first time, and like as they're driving through the snow, things just kind of start to I don't know, dissolve. Like everything that you know just starts falling apart until you don't really know what the story is anymore until the end of the book. This is a Netflix movie that came out recently too, and I think I just wasn't smart enough to like really appreciate it. I really think I understand the book and in its entirety, and I understand the larger theme of the movie, but like there were just some scenes in the movie that weren't in the book that I didn't think really served the purpose of like the message. I don't know. getting off topic there, but if you're going to read it or watch the movie, I would really suggest reading it, or at least reading it first, so you're not too like put off by the movie, you know? Also, Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I don't even know if this is a thriller, but I am gonna call it a psychological thriller. It's kind of like a character study, but I think there are some thrilling moments. Actually, as I'm talking about it, it's not a thriller, but just let me have this for a second because it's a really, really good book and I want more of you to read it. It's about this group of friends and they're at this boarding school, but they can't leave the boarding school. And then as they get closer to graduation, they have all this fear and anxiety because they've never been in the outside world. And even though they have these programs they enter into after graduation, like post-grad, and they have these like assignments kind of, it's hard to explain without giving anything away, but like, it's really sad and it really, really makes you think, and above all else, it's like this mystery and all of this really tension-filled atmosphere of what is actually going on. And it felt thrilling to me, but at the same time, maybe it shouldn't have been on this list, I don't know. Sue me. Let's move on to the next category because that was the end of the psychological thrillers. We're going to move on to straight up mystery thriller books now. We're gonna go fast because I just won't stop talking. I'm really sorry about this. All right, let's do The Stranger Diaries by Ellie Griffiths. Oh my gosh, I talk about this book all the time and I still feel like no one has taken me up on the recommendation, but it is a mystery thriller. Above all else, it is a mystery book. I think technically it's dark academia. We have the college setting. We have a murder that has taken place at a school and a teacher is trying to solve it, and she has a daughter and a dog, and it's just really wholesome. This is one I would recommend to try to read in the fall, like October. Oh my gosh, I wish I could read it again for the first time. I love, love, love The Stranger Diaries. I also really like Finlay Donovan Is Killing It. I've talked about this one a lot recently, so I'm just gonna stay on it for a second. It's about this woman who gets mistaken as a hitman. She's an author, but someone hires her to kill her husband. Not her husband, but the hirer's husband. And I know that Gabby from Gabby Reads said this first, but I completely agree that the entire vibe of this book gives me Dead to Me, which is on Netflix, that little Netflix show that I've been watching with my mom. We really like it. And there's a female friendship in this book that reminds me a lot of the female friendship in that show. So this one is really fun and I can't wait to read more from this series as it is written. Also, Who is Maud Dixon? A 5-star book, a new all-time favorite. Love it so much, but it is not super thrilling all the time. It definitely is a mystery, and it's just about this mysterious Maud Dixon who is an author who has written this incredibly famous book, but no one knows who Maud Dixon is. And then there's this extremely unlikable character who we're following who gets hired on to be Maud Dixon's assistant. Things go on from there. It's really good. I have to mention Where the Crawdads Sing because this is a mystery book. There is a mystery going on here. Yes, it's about Kaya Clark, the Marsh girl who basically raised herself and has just been completely ostracized from this town. Like, it really is about her. But there is a murder mystery going on in the timeline that's taking place in the present day. And I just never mention this book because everyone talks about it. I really think rightfully so. This is one of the best books I've ever read in my life, and I do want to have it in this like mystery thriller section. Yeah, I wanted it documented that it is in fact one of my favorite books ever. I've also got another one I rarely talk about. It's Where'd You Go, Bernadette by Maria Semple, and it's another one. It's not really a thriller, but it's just a really good mystery, and it's exploring this relationship between mother and daughter, and this mother who has basically disappeared, and how the daughter will stop at nothing to try to find her mom. And another one I don't talk about super often, The Lovely Bones by Alice Sebold. This is another really beautiful, really heartbreaking story that's not really a thriller, but it is a mystery because it starts out with a young girl who has been murdered, and we know this starting out. We're actually following her ghost looking down at her family, or she's either a ghost or an angel, but she's watching her family try to cope with her death, and it just kind of becomes this mystery of how is this all going to end for the family? Will they get closure? Lastly, for the mystery thriller Rex, Invisible Monsters. It's another one that it feels like a really fun action-packed thriller, but it really is kind of more of just a mystery. Chuck just has this really weird writing style, like at all times, but really in this book it's just strange. And it's about this beauty queen who has been horribly disfigured in an accident, and she just like teams up with this strange group of people to go and try to get revenge in some way. And there are just a lot of detours on their journey, and like they get sidetracked in so many different ways that are fun and interesting, but it's really cool at the end to see how everything actually does tie back in together. All right, we've made it to the last category, which I'm just calling really good books. First, we've got the Stillhouse Lake series by Rachel Kane. Stillhouse Lake is just really good. It's about this family, and the patriarch of the family at the beginning of this first book is found to actually be this horrendous serial killer. So of course the media and police don't believe that there's no way that the wife didn't know that her husband had been this horrible killer. But she didn't know, and the children didn't know, and now she's living her life not on the run like from police or anything, but she's living her life on the run from these internet trolls who are convinced that she had to have known that she herself is a monster. This is a rare case where I actually think that I like what's this one called? Kilman Creek, like the second book in the series, better than the first. And then I have read Wolf Hunter River as well. It's also good. Like, this is just a really solid series. I've not read anything past the first 3. I love these books. Next we have In a Dark, Dark Wood by Ruth Ware. And this is the only other Ruth Ware book besides The Turn of the Key that I would regularly recommend in good conscience, just for my reading taste and everything. Like, this is really the only one I've read by her that I have really thoroughly enjoyed. It's about this hen party gone wrong, and hen party is like a bachelorette party where it's this group of women and a man all in this snowed in cabin up in the woods in the middle of nowhere, and things go wrong. In a Dark, Dark Wood was a fun time. Also, The Woman in the Window by A.J. Finn. It's hard for me to recommend this book because from what I've read, he just seems to be a con artist, and he's even like publishing under a new name now because he knew that like he wasn't going to be able to sell more books. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, separating art from artist here, which we could have a conversation on, like, how does one do that? This is one of my favorite thrillers of all time. This was my favorite book of 2019, and I don't talk about it much because I don't really want to support AJ, but I also want you to know, like, if you already own this book or like it's at your library or something and you're looking for a fun thriller, I really, really like it. It's about an agoraphobic woman who witnesses something happen across the street. She witnesses a murder. She thinks that she does, but of course she is an unreliable witness. Not only does she have these mental health issues, but she is on medication. She is drinking on her medication, and then the police and the detectives just don't know if they can believe her. All I can say is it was probably my favorite book of 2019, and I didn't really like the movie. So if you've been wanting to watch the movie, go ahead and check it out, but like, the book is just light years better than that movie, in my opinion. Okay, next is Local Woman Missing. I knew I had to put this in this video. Oh, my lipstick kind of matches that. I really wanted to put this in this video, but I couldn't find a category for it. It's not like the most fast-paced book I've ever read, but it's definitely not a slow burn. It's not really a psychological thriller, so it's just in the really good category. And it's just about this string of disappearances going on in this town where these women are disappearing. And then a little girl who had been kidnapped actually stumbles back into the town one day and is saved and returns home to her family, and from there they're like, actually, let's try to solve all these disappearances. It was such a good, very straightforward, action-packed book that had a really good twist at the end. Lastly, for this category, I have Red Dragon by Thomas Harris. I actually don't own that book. I read that on my Kindle, but I do have Silence of the Lambs, and Silence of the Lambs is technically the second book in this series, even though it can be read as a standalone. The only two that you really need to read in order, in my opinion, is Silence of the Lambs and then Hannibal. I think it's just Hannibal. Yeah, not Hannibal Rising. Hannibal Rising is the last one. So you do need to read like Silence of the Lambs and then Hannibal kind of back to back, kind of for it to make sense, and just again, in my opinion. But Red Dragon is book 1, and it's following this detective named Will Graham, who is responsible for putting away Hannibal Lecter, who is this cannibal serial killer who is a doctor. And now Detective Graham is trying to catch this guy named the Tooth Fairy, who is despite his name, he's like a scary serial killer guy, and he's trying to catch him, and he has to go and recruit Hannibal Lecter's help in solving that case. And so, yeah, in Silence of the Lambs, we have Clarice Starling, who is the young FBI cadet. And I think Will Graham might even make an appearance in this book. I truly can't remember, but Will Graham is the detective we're following in Red Dragon, and I really liked that book better than I liked the Silence of the Lambs book. I mean, I love this book, but I think this is the rare case where I like the movie better, Silence of the Lambs, than the book. But Red Dragon is really good. It's detective POV. It's really action-packed, and it's just something I never talk about, and I never think about it. I don't think about like these book series that I read when I was in high school much. I usually just am talking about the books that I'm currently reading and really excited about. So yeah, that one is just a really good book that I wanted to mention here. Now, as promised, I'm going to talk about my 5 favorite thrillers of all time today. Like, whatever they are at this point in time, here they are. These are in no particular order. They're just the top 5. So, The Kind Worth Killing. I already talked about it, but I think that the reason that I love this one so much is because of how each part changes the narrator and thus changes the story you think you know and the story you think you've been reading. It is constantly flipping everything on its head up until that final page, and I can't recommend it enough. Next, They Never Learn, Lane Fargo. Just so unbelievably good. I couldn't love it more. Surprise, surprise, my camera died because I was talking for too long. So like I was saying, They Never Learn is so special to me because it's about this woman who is actually getting revenge on these men who are being horrible people. I also just love the school setting in that one. I love how the 2 different sections come together to be one story. I'm glowing every time I talk about it. Honestly, at this point, if I was gonna number the list, that might be number 1. I don't own it. I want to get it really bad so I can read it again and annotate it. I really want to reread it this fall, but I know that when I was reading it, I had a lot of technical, I don't want to say a lot. I had some technical problems when I first started it. I thought there were a lot of cliches. I thought that like the writing was kind of simple, but once I got sucked into the story, y'all, it's just one of my favorite books of all time. I truly cannot wait to reread it. Next, you probably knew it was coming from when I talked about it earlier in the video, but I Let You Go by Claire McIntosh. That plot twist, I swear, I think about the reading experience that I had with that book like once a day. I'm not exaggerating. I think about it all the time. And like how an author can make you think you're reading one thing and then with one sentence completely change the book for you. I'm gonna stop now because I don't want to give anything away. That was in the slow burn section, so it's not gonna be for everybody, but if you are like down to take on the challenge, so good, so good. Obviously, you probably already know, I love Night Film. I love this book so much. I think it's because I really love movies. Like, as much as I love books and talk about books here, I really do love movies just as much. I probably watch more movies than I read books, really. So to have this be this psychological thriller about a journalist trying to track down the lore behind this mysterious filmmaker, and like in the meantime, he recruits these friends to go along with him who like are such an unlikely group of people, and the way that they work together, I just think that it doesn't get better than this. It just doesn't. Actually, it could get a little bit better. We could have cut out about 100 pages of this book, and I think it would have been the same. Maybe. I might need to revisit it to like make that bold of a claim, but it's a little lengthy, but it's one of the best mysteries ever, and the way that it ends just like makes the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Yeah. Every single book I'm gonna hold up, I'm gonna want to end. I'm gonna be tempted to end it with like, actually, this is my number 1 ever. Anyway, love Night Film. Lastly, where is it? Where did I put it? Oh. Confessions by Kane Minato. Earlier this year I was like, yeah, Penance is definitely better than Confessions, but I take that back. I do think Confessions is better. I didn't get into like details earlier, but this one is about a teacher, she's a woman, and her daughter is murdered by some of her students. So the book starts out with her giving this lecture to her class saying, yeah, I know who killed my daughter, and then from there she starts like her revenge. It is bad. But as you can see here, like I never tab books. I've tabbed like 3 books in my whole life that weren't for school. And this is one of them because I actually just had to start putting sticky notes in here every time that my jaw physically fell open while I was like, what? Like this action going on. I just started tabbing it because I was like, this is the wildest book I've ever read. And then I immediately started rereading it. I never got through the entire reread, but like that's how inspired I felt at the end of this to just want to immediately start it right over. So this is actually my favorite. This is actually my number 1. No, I'm just kidding. It might be actually, but yeah. Confessions by Kane Minato. 2 thumbs up. All right, that's the video. I can't thank you enough for watching. I know that was a long one, but I'm really happy to start this new series and to have all of these books, all of my very favorite recommendations, all in one place. So there you have it for the mystery thriller books. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you have a great week this week. And again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.